Sam, welcome to noise11.com, and good to find out the story of the band Lipstereo today, because a couple of weeks ago I got the privilege to see one of the early gigs, see you live in concert, and I tell you what, it's great to see some guitar, bass and drums back on stage with a rock and roll band performing live again.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, it was a good gig to come along to. The thing that struck me was, where are these influences coming from you guys?
Depending on which song we play, it can be quite diverse. In that set we played that night, we'll getting some really heavy fuzz tones, and then we'll doing some more, I guess, more overdriven stuff. So I get anything from Strokes through to Weezer. I guess are probably the primary influences for what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. When I look at the record collection behind you, is that your record collection there?
That's my book and DVD collection, music ones. But yeah, the Beatles, you can see quite prominent. All lots of fun stuff there, from Live Aid through to the Monkeys' first season on DVD. Yeah,
The Monkeys, that was a pretty wild era.
yeah. I've got it running just in the background here on my little analog TV, because it's just good inspiration to have in the background. It's not, you can't get too intense watching the Monkeys, so it's good for background if you just want to write and noodle around. It's fun like that.
I guess they were a band that were never taken that seriously back in the day, but now when you go and listen to the structure of the songs, it's quite ingenious what they were doing at the time. Is that something like, when you're writing songs, is there a formula when everyone gets in the room to put something together?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the Monkeys, because they had the Wrecking Crew and for their early stuff, but we obviously don't have that. So yeah, it's more collaborative, I guess. So what we do when we get into the room is we normally bring an idea, and then we kind of tweak it and tweak it and tweak it until we get it sounding, I guess, the way we want it to sound. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Lip Stereo is a four-piece band. You, Tage, Andrew, Jesse. But when I look at the songwriting credits, there's another name in there, Ned Sims. So who's Ned?
Ned's our old drummer. He helped out writing the song, so yeah, we weren't going to screw him over. So,
This is what we're talking about here.
oh, you got a copy?
Oh, look at that, huh?
Yeah, very pretty.
Okay, so this is the 12-inch about to be released, or slash has just been released, depending on at which point people are clicking on demand to watch this interview. Now, you went into the studio with Mark Opitz. Mark Opitz is a legendary Australian producer. What did you know of Mark before you went in?
Yes, he's like iconic. He is Australian rock, really. The way he put together, particularly INXS, I think that Welcome to Wherever You Are is probably my favorite album of his, which was in the early 90s. And the way he just was able to layer different sounds and really put together like this cohesive thing for INXS. Yeah. And probably my favorite song of his is Don't Change, that he worked on. That's just amazing. Yeah.
Well, you track back the history of Mark Opitz. He was there right at the very start of the Angels. He was there with Cold Chisel. That's a remarkable heritage for somebody to have, and it must be a privilege for you guys to be in the studio with a man who is sharing everything he learnt from that era now in the year 2022.
Yeah, it's quite surreal. There's so much history involved in it, and I guess we get to participate in some small way. That's kind of special. So yeah, we definitely were aware of that going in. Yeah, and it made it a really enjoyable experience, because we have to be ready to go. So there was no wasted time. So there's lots of memories in the back of my mind about recording that EP. Yeah.
So tell me about you, Tage, Andrew, and Jesse. Were you all friends prior to Lip Stereo?
No. I met Tage over Bandmix, And then he knew Andrew through work, and we stole Jesse from another band. Yeah, it just kind of came together over time, and yeah, that's how we kind of formed. But now, yeah, we're mates.
But that original formation, was that like an audition process that you had to go through?
I was talking to some other people, but Tage was like the second person, and I instantly knew that yeah, he's a lot of fun, and we were just having a good time together in the room. And I think that's 90% of making music, is if you're enjoying that collaborative process, you're gonna enjoy it long term, and you're probably gonna write good stuff together.
Well, the first song everyone gets to hear is a song called Stop. Tell me about that song. When was that written?
Yeah, that didn't take long to write, did it? That's not very complex. I wrote that in 20, probably late 2018, before the band was formed. And yeah, I made a demo with my dad, and he was on drums. And then I sent that off to the boys, and yeah, they were keen. And that's kind of what kind of started the band, is that song. Yeah. So it was probably fitting that we released it first. It's not the type of song you can release 12 years into your career, I think.
But it's a very raw rock and roll song, isn't it? And I take it, in the bands that you were talking about earlier, that influence is being felt in that song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Mm. What about Little Spaceships? Where did that fit into the era of the short history so far?
Yeah, so these are all songs that we wrote in 2019, before the pandemic and having to push everything back, and then finally get around to recording them. So it's been a long process, but I guess in that track you can probably hear a more Beatlesque influence, particularly towards the end, where we're starting to play with different bell sounds and mellotron sounds. You can definitely still hear that punk revival thing going on, influences by Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes throughout that song.
And is that part of the fun process of being in the studio, that you do get to experiment with different sounds?
Uh, uh, if we had enough time in the studio, that's a lot of stuff that we were doing before in the demos. Just because when you get in the studio, you just realize how little time there is. Time seems to go a lot faster there than in the real world. So what we did is we created really like meticulous demos, and the final product, I guess, they were kind of simplified and distilled, which Mark's very good at cutting out a lot of the fluff in that way. Yeah.
Two more songs, Feedback and Take the Bus, make up this debut EP. Where did those ones fall into the timeline?
Yeah, same thing. 2019. Take the Bus. Andrew's done like a really George Harrison guitar solo over the top of it, which is a lot of fun to listen to. And he only did like one or two takes in the studio for that. So that was really impressive. And Feedback, that's quite a fun. It's a fun song. That's about thinking that you're on the good times right now, rather than thinking about them in the future.
Mm. So there's been quite the number of live events that have been popping up. How do you fill out the set when you've got the entire night to yourself? Are there covers that you're relying on as well?
Yeah, so we don't play. We like to keep our sets quite short, 35 minutes. Don't want to waste people's time. I'd rather get in there and get out of there, and hopefully people enjoy it. But yeah, we've been playing "Be My Baby" as a cover, and that was a lot of fun to tweak and kind of figure out what the core of the song was, I guess, in that very Mark way of doing things, and then seeing how we can kind of twist it. And we've come up with something pretty cool. So any listeners out there, come to a gig and we'll play it.
All right, Sam. Well, that's the early stage of the Lipstereo story. We look forward to following this one over the years and hopefully the decades.
Awesome. Thanks so much.